I'm just gonna start a roll call then. Ping Chen. Oh, I think you're muted, Ping.
I'm Ping Shen Chen, representing District 1.
And then obviously Ismael Rivera is not present at this time, but then Oyen Akinbuli.
Hi, my name is Toyin. I actually, I'm not sure what district I'm in, but I'm literally right next to City Hall. District 2, thank you.
And then Jamie Dillon.
Hi, I'm Jamie Dillon. I'm here with District 2 as well.
Steve Hill.
Steve Hill, representing District 3.
Nicole LeVay O'Brien.
Nicole LeVay O'Brien, also representing District 3.
All right.
And Joel Wallen.
Joel Wallen, District 5.
Thank you, everybody.
So actually, I guess technically, Joel, you were vice chair, right? Prior?
Correct.
Okay, so you technically probably should be facilitating the meeting as I think about it. But before we get into that, I think maybe just a round of introductions. I know everybody just said who or what council district they're with, but since we do have some new members and folks haven't seen each other in a while, maybe just a round of introductions again in terms of, you know, how long you've been on the committee, what interests you about the committee, any other sort of maybe personal / professional background stuff that relates to the committee.
Same order or round robin?
Why don't we just do the same order? So Ping, I guess, would be first.
I'm Ping, working in the Worcester Public Library for almost 30 years. I retired 2 years ago and was called for help to run a nonprofit organization, Literacy Volunteer of Greater Worcester. And when I work in the library, I'm a professional research librarian. I was a division head for the other public services. So that means I led a professional librarian to create an information service for the public, including online research, in-person research. We're helping the small business, nonprofit to do research and looking for grants. I know a lot the needs of the public and also local organization. So after I retired and Literacy Volunteer Greater Worcester need help. So I had the opportunity run as an executive director, run that organization. That helped me learn more about the nonprofit in the community. And because of my background about the community and the community needs, especially how to finding grant, how important for nonprofit to find the right grant and to make a difference to fulfill their mission. So I'm trying to find something meaningful. Now I'm a second time retired. So this is something kind of speak to me. I can share my knowledge and experience helping other nonprofit and get the funding they need.
Great, thank you, Ping. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Toyin?
Hello, everyone. So again, my name is Toyin. I actually, for my undergraduate degree, I studied resource economics. And also I have an MBA, but I've also worked in corporate. And I've also worked internationally in reference to international policy and just economic policy really as a whole. And then here presently in Worcester, I've worked within immigrant and refugee organizations and nonprofit as well. I've served on some boards of some nonprofit as well. And then I'm good at writing grants and all of that. And I know a little bit of the intricacies of how small and private organizations within the communities in reference to grant writing and how policies and resources could be distributed and how that could affect whether it's small organizations or the immigrant community and just things from economic development and from that perspective. So yeah, that is why I felt I could be a part of this. So.
Great, thank you. We welcome aboard, and we're lucky to have both you and Ping as contributors to the committee, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maybe we go back to Ismail, since I saw he just logged on. We're just doing introductions and kind of giving some context. I mean, we have a few new members just mainly for the benefit of them in terms of your background and how it applies to the committee, that kind of thing.
Hello everyone. And it's nice to see many of the faces from last year and the new faces from this year. I'm actually in the island of Puerto Rico right now, and I was on vacation. Actually, I'm like, oh my God, I almost forgot at my meeting, and my mom was the one that reminded me. But I have been in public health and human services for over 20 plus years as a program director and program development, as well as a grant writer. And also did a lot of grant reviews for the Department of Public Health and did some for the city of Worcester last year in some foundations. So that's sort of what I bring to the table, as well as my cultural background in public health and human services. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I guess we'll go with Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone again, and welcome to the new members. So glad we're all here. Looks like a great, great group. I know last year was exciting with new members too, so this looks great. I live on Sears Island in Worcester. I moved here from Lowell about 20 years ago, and I've been involved in the nonprofit sector for about over 25 years with roles ranging from executive director to grant writing. Been more on the administrative side, but started off my career, in street outreach and homeless outreach and running shelters and doing overnight. So it's a good perspective to kind of be on the front lines, but also, be on the budgeting and grant writing and reviewing side of things. So I think that my goal, I try to think about, some of the things that people propose and whether they're practical and if the budgets line up. I know I like to try to, pay attention to those details, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new applications. But yeah, I've been involved in the nonprofit sector for a long time, and this really just spoke to me just to have more of an involvement on the giving of fund side rather than just always on the receiving. So it's been a great experience so far. Nice to meet you guys.
Great, thank you. Steve?
Yeah, hi, everybody. It's great. We have a quorum, first meeting. I love it. I came to this from primary community development. I got involved in crime prevention programs and trying to get more resources into the neighborhoods from the city and other. We weren't getting our fair share, I guess. So eventually, I applied to work in this development, and I worked for 24 years before I retired. So I was there when Greg came in. We kind of broke him in as a boss. So I worked there for a while and very, very familiar with all the organizations that are seeking money. And that's probably the best part, is to get to know the organizations, their resources, and the people that they serve. That's what I like to do. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Steve. Nicole?
Hi, my name's Nicole Ave O'Brien. It's my second year in CDAC. I found last year to be super rewarding. I think this is one of the only, it's not one of the only, but it's one of the actionable committees in the city. We're not just sitting around talking about things. We make recommendations that will eventually distribute funding, and I just take a lot of pride in that. I've been in municipal government for almost 4 years now. I'm an assistant town clerk for the town of Harvard. So we handle elections, vital records, all sorts of things. We're a public facing office, and to be able to serve the public in another way is something that I find super rewarding, and I'm very happy to be back this year.
Great, thank you, Nicole. Joel, and Joel, maybe you can just segue after your intro to the rest of the agenda, since you're serving as a chair, as the former as a vice chair right now. So
Sounds good. I should pull up the agenda then. Hey, everybody, Joel, this is my third year now on CDAC. I really liked what you just had to say. It is fun to be part of a group that makes decisions that has tangible impacts in the community. I work at a nonprofit here in Worcester, which means that at some point in these sessions, I'll have to recuse myself because of potential conflicts of interest or actual conflicts of interest. I've been in the nonprofit sector for just about 20 years, something that I'm passionate about. And outside of what I do professionally and CDAC, I adjunct in the MBA program at Fitchburg States, and I proudly coach at Jesse Burkett Little League. And give me a second to pull up where we are going to next. Sorry, I'm slightly underprepared to be facilitating this meeting. And I do wish I was in Puerto Rico right now. It's got to be a
Believe it
fun
or not.
time
Yeah,
to be in Puerto Rico right after the halftime show.
I would say absolutely
Oh,
true. And it was 47 degrees here yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So I just pulled it up.
I'm
on my
sorry,
phone,
I don't
so you
think
can see it.
Jamie went, or maybe I missed it.
I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Great. So thank you for, Lena, was that you that pulled this up?
Yes.
Thank you. So looks like we're moving to elections by votes, and I don't know if there's been any conversations had about if anyone is interested either in nominating someone else or nominating themselves as chairperson.
Well, Joel, I feel like you're a fairly long tenured member of the committee, and you've been vice chair. So if you wouldn't mind me nominating you, I would nominate you for chair.
I second that.
I second.
Thank you. This is a little bit personal, anecdotal, but so I've been in Worcester for like less than 5 years, which in a place like Worcester means like you just got here yesterday. So the fact that you said that I'm a long-standing member is just cracking me up.
That's great.
I mean, we're limited to, what is it, 6 years on a committee, so you're like halfway there.
It's true. Okay. Greg, I'll rely on you then for a little bit of, well, I guess we do need to vote, but I will rely on you then for a little bit of kind of insight on what that all looks like.
the roles.
Yeah, can we
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
roll call?
So the chair, and we can try to find the old There's nothing that's hardwired into the commission that defines exactly what these roles are. We kind of came up with them after a few years. I want to say like in 2015, 2016, we came up with some internal sort of like protocols and policies around different roles and functions and how the committee should operate. So the chair itself is obviously, as it implies, it's the top person in the committee who's responsible for facilitating the meetings primarily. That's the main responsibility. Following the agenda, make sure we're staying on the agenda, making sure that we stay, we're budgeting our time correctly, maybe even agreeing to what a time would be. Some years we do that, some years we don't. The chair of the role beyond that, or the role of the chair beyond that also involves presenting before city council. And I put the term presenting in parentheses because you're really just showing up and advocating for what the committee did, speaking to the good work that the committee did, maybe throwing out a few other things that you think maybe need to be improved with the process of the committee, but hopefully mostly positive things. And then, working with the vice chair. If the chair is not present, the vice chair then serves up. Oh, great. You found it, Melina. Thank you. Or was that Steve Hill who sent it to you by email, Rita? So this is what we came up with here. I'm not going to read this thing verbatim. I just gave you a sketch of what.
Yeah.
But it says here elections occur for the chair, CDAC, each new city fiscal year. So that's why we're doing this right now. And so really we're looking for a chair, a vice chair, and then a recorder is a volunteer position, so we don't need to vote on that. But I think that kind of summarizes the responsibilities, which are important, but also not too overwhelming either. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but.
That sounds good. So we need to do a vote.
Yes.
Yes, you'll have to facilitate a vote here and let, I don't know if we want to entertain any other, if there's any other people that somebody wants to forward or. But otherwise, if that's it, yeah, go ahead and take a vote.
Can you remind me who, Nicole, you made the motion? Sorry, was that a yes? You're on
Yes,
mute.
Nicole made a motion and then
Yep.
Toyin
Sorry.
and had seconded.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Sounds good, I think. Sounds good, everybody. Thank you. And
Usually you say the motion passes. No, I'm just kidding.
motion passed.
Good
Motion
job.
passed. Sounds
Good
good.
job,
Those are-
everybody.
Those are synonymous. And then is there a nomination, either self or of someone else for vice chair? I'd like to nominate Ismail as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Ismail, do you have any comments on that?
thank you, Joe. We made a good team last year, so I'm good.
Sounds good. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes, aye.
Opposed?
Hmm.
Abstains? All right, motion passed for Ismail as vice chair. And then we need to appoint a recorder.
Yeah, that's not a vote. It doesn't require a vote, but somebody wants to volunteer, or if somebody wants to be voluntold. I believe
Is this-
Ismail was the last person, right? Is the recorder lead?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm happy to do that again, as long as I get the documents from everyone as we did last year.
Well, we usually try to have that as a separate person from the chair or vice chair.
That's perfect with me as well.
I would volunteer for that.
Wonderful. Any other comments? All right, Steve, thank you very much for doing that. You've done that in the past, if I remember correctly, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, thank
Well,
you nonetheless.
I kind of did it as a staff to that committee for 20 years, so, but I'm familiar with it.
Great, thank you. Lena, are we going to do the overview collectively on shared screen?
I prepared some graphics and some slides. I don't know, Director Baker, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll walk people through it if you bring it up.
Okay.
Great.
Just the slides are also the community input information, the community needs information.
Let's reserve that for after the slides, please.
Okay.
So we're just trying to orient you to the applications, and we put together a little graphic that kind of summarizes things, because I know not everyone has gotten their binder. This is just a 30,000 foot overview, like not in the weeds about each application, but just, you know, the nature of the applications, the number, that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to keep this brief, and this whole meeting should hopefully be very brief, but and I apologize, as you can probably tell, I'm getting over a cold, so that's the other reason I kind of want to keep this brief too. I'm not really in a public speaking mode right now, but this will hopefully you know, help give some background on the applications this year. So let me I guess preface the comments by saying that for those of you that follow things at the federal level, there has been some touch and go, not only with the federal budget, but also with the THUD bill, which is the bill that Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, it's the bill that CDBG funding, which falls under the HUD Department, Housing and Urban Development, it's tied back to that. And I believe as of last week, there was an agreement on the whole appropriations bill that included the recommendations for funding. And as far as I can tell, we are recommended for level funding. And, you know, that means usually, you know, give or take, there's a margin of error of like, you know, a few thousand here, a few thousand there. So it won't exactly be the exact same amount. But that is good news nonetheless, because otherwise this would somewhat be an empty exercise until we found out whether or not the funds are in place. But it seems like they should be for this coming year. So that being said, this is just kind of an overview. If you want to go to the next slide, please, Lena. So Lena put together these lovely graphics, and you'll see that there's some bar charts here showing kind of like the number of applications by category over the years. And then the one in the red square obviously is this year that we'll be contending with, which those of you who have already picked up your binders, you now no longer need to go to Planet Fitness. You can just work your biceps lifting that binder up and down. It's pretty big and pretty heavy. It's like 41 applications, I think, that we got total, right? Yeah, it says it right there. Okay. So the bulk of that was public facilities. We got 150% increase. Of course, that sounds massive, right? But we're dealing with small numbers anyway. But still, it's over double what we got the year before. Kudos to my staff. Lena and Eamon, who's not here, and then Tony as well. We did a concerted effort to do, at my request, specific outreach, and we even sponsored a couple of new technical assistance workshops specifically just about how to use public facility CDBG funds. So I think that resulted in this increase in applications. That being said, they're not all eligible, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in terms of like evaluating them and whatnot and discussing them. But it looks like 22 nonprofits applied, one condominium trust, which was a little unusual, one community health center, the housing authority, a charter school, Abby Kelly Foster applied, and a couple of religious organizations / churches, which are clearly eligible to use funds too, depending on the request and the nature of the funds. So there was 40, as I mentioned, 41 total applications, 21% increase in overall applications, and 9% decrease specifically to public services. Next slide, please. So these are some fancy pie charts, but it basically breaks down the submissions by, I guess, like programmatic categories. So you'll see that the most of them are still basic needs, food, pantries, those kind of things, emergency services. Case management is a sizable chunk. Almost a third is basic needs, though. We do have a pretty sizable chunk under public services for youth services, some employment-based programs, some health programs, and transitional housing and legal advisory, picking up the rest of it. So the biggest chunk is really case management, basic needs, and youth services. Average request was around 53,000. But we obviously had on the high end, we had over $100,000 requests, and then we also had things as low as 10,000, which is the threshold to be considered for the new applicant. If you hadn't received CDBG in the last 5 years, you're kind of put into that new applicant pool. And then so the total request is 1.114 million. And obviously that's going to be something we have to look at closely because, the budget's only going to allow for upper 500s to lower 600s, depending on, in terms of 600,000, in terms of, what we actually end up getting from HUD if it stays level compared to last year. And then the facilities, like I said, we got quite a few facilities. The highest amount requested was 218,000. The lowest was 18,000. And actually, it's kind of funny because I think we had put a cap on that of 195,000, if I'm not mistaken, in the RFP. So I'm not sure who asked for 218,000, but we'll have to look at that. But pretty sizable chunk of ask there, considering once we back out the public services, our administrative cap, which we max out at 25% every year. We're not left with a whole ton of money, especially when you start looking at interdepartmental requests, or I should say city manager priorities. But nonetheless, this is definitely good to have a good set of public facility applications. And most of them, as you can see, relate to accessibility upgrades, which would include ADA type things. Safety and security was a big chunk, almost a quarter. And then we had general site improvements, exterior site improvements, a couple of playground related things, HVAC, and some interior rehabilitation. So nothing too different from the prior years, but a slightly different mix. Next one, please. Okay, so this breaks down the interdepartmentals. We had 13 total. One new proposal, which was kind of promising in the sense that Department of Public Works had actually submitted an application, first time in the 13 years I've been here. For those of you that know, neighborhood development has traditionally asked for funds to work with Public Works in specific neighborhoods on specific projects. But they do have a new person over there that has kind of a grants background, grants compliance, and they kind of spearheaded an application on behalf of DPW. The average request interdepartmental was 452,000. Highest request, which I'm pretty sure was from the housing division, was 1.2 million. And the lowest request, which I believe was from inspectional services, was 85,000. But the departments you see in blue on the left are the ones that applied. Next slide.
That's it
So
for
that was
the,
it. That was it.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So
For
that
the
kind of gives
summary.
you a sense of all the applications, the categories they're fitting under, the number that we're gonna have to contend with. So we're gonna have obviously a pretty aggressive schedule this year to get through these. Some of them, after our discussion, we'll probably understand are probably not even eligible. But I think it's fair and equitable to just review everything that was applied for rather than throwing things out before the committees had a chance to look at them. Now, we did do a community survey, which I think most folks are familiar with, but just this is the one that tied to our 5-year plan. And Lena, I don't know if you want to bring that up just as a refresher. So this is not something we did recently, but I believe it was in the summer or spring of last year. And this was primarily online, but we advertised pretty heavily through different channels to try to get responses. And you can see that the number one funding priority, no big surprise here, I guess, was affordable housing. Excuse me. 80% of respondents, as I said, as it states here, said affordable housing is very much needed in Worcester. And specifically within housing, it looks as if some of the highest response rates, if I'm reading this correctly, related to specifically affordable housing, although there were some other subcategories like maintenance, things like that were in there as well. And the homelessness theme was big too in terms of housing theme. Homelessness was a pretty big chunk of people selecting that was a high sort of priority, or should be, for the coming 5 years. And all of these things, these categories are clearly important because they kind of rose to the surface. But some of the ones that were maybe not as on the forefront of people's mind, including the ones at the bottom, home ownership support, at least as if you compare it to homelessness prevention and affordable housing. Next one. Okay, so this is social and human services, which was also a very top ranked sort of need or category of community needs. Affordable childcare was actually one of the highest respondents, citing that as being highly important. Youth programs was another one that was very big, as well as mental health. So you can look at that chart to kind of get a sense of how it all broke down, but definitely within the subcategories, I'd say substance abuse and mental health were clearly kind of forerunners in terms of subsets of community needs that relate to social and human services. The next one. And then infrastructure and employment and business needs, or were top needs identified. So you can see that infrastructure is a pretty broad category, right? But we threw out a bunch of different things in the survey to see how people sort of reacted. And we also had some open-ended questions too, so people could sort of come up with their own category if one wasn't presented. Streets and sewer by far was the highest category, as people seeing as a priority or a need. Going 5 years down into the future is something that we should be focusing on with our funds. Public facilities too was up there, as was Parks and Rec. And then lower on the scale were things like stormwater, flood, and broadband. But nonetheless, people responded to that as well as a high need. And then employment and business, you can see that job placement was, the biggest sort of subcategory to that. And nonetheless, it was something that touches on different things. There's training in there, there's small business assistance, but job placement and job training were kind of the big leaders in terms of people's responses saying that they should be a high priority for funding for the next 5 years. And I don't know if is there one more slide or was that it?
That's it for the.
Okay. So hopefully that kind of reorients people to some of the priorities, and usually in our rubric, we have some things that tie back to the community needs. Pretty sure this was into our rubric. If not, we need to put it in there. But this is something that people can fall back on with any sort of guidance as it relates to the 5-year plan priorities and that kind of thing. And this is clearly based on community input. So that's a summary of that. And I don't know if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I didn't anticipate this being a very involved meeting because, again, we're just beginning the process. I'll entertain any questions, but if there aren't any, I will say for item 4, Joel, we're probably going to need to revisit our day that we're meeting because I think there may be a conflict with one of the members' schedule. And I suggest, but it's up for discussion of the committee, that going forward, first of all, I suggest we maybe skip next week to give people a chance to get their binders and start reading through some of the applications, and then maybe start tackling it through formal meetings the week of the 23rd. But I'll turn that over to you, Joel, to kind of discuss with the committee.
Joel,
Sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry. I try really hard to not do that. Greg, remind me, when is the expectation that we have this completed?
Well, the whole action plan, which this is just one small portion of that we submit to HUD, is typically due May 15th. I think we met in the 13 years I've been here, and I think actually in the whole history of the city, we met that one time. Actually, there was one year that I met it, and then they changed the numbers. They made a mistake in the allocation numbers, so everybody across the nation had to revisit that. But we've never not made our statutory deadline, which is in August. So you absolutely have to get your action plan in by August. But that being said, we do still try to aim for having things ready to be wrapped up, hopefully for HUD by early to end of May. So for this committee, it'd be ideal if we could wrap things up by, because this is just the first step, right? There's other things we have to do internally, but if we could wrap things up in March, and no later than March, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I was just looking at meeting schedules from last year. It looks like, yeah, we took a week off in between, and then during the month of March is kind of a pretty heavy lift where we'll meet 3 to 4 times during that month and work our way through the applications. And then towards the end of the month, we'll be able to, depending on how robust the discussions are, we'll be able to kind of reevaluate our meeting rhythm. So my recommendation would be that we have a discussion around what days work best for people, what days and times work best for people. And then schedule one, not for next week, but the following, and then schedule for at least 3 for the first 3 weeks of March.
Cool.
We are meeting Wednesday evenings is right now. I mean, that's when today's meeting was. Does that generally work? Or Greg, do you have insight that does not work for somebody?
Yeah, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I do know that definitely doesn't work for one person until we get into like the middle of March, I believe. So I don't know if there was a runner-up besides Wednesday that kind of worked that people were amenable to meeting on.
I'm the easiest person in this committee. I'm on maternity leave right now, so I have nothing. This is my standing appointment.
Well, congratulations.
It's-
Yeah, congratulations.
It's fun. It gives me time to read through my big binder.
Are Tuesdays better? Maybe I should ask it like this. Does anybody have any conflicts on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m.?
So I think at this point, Wednesday, Thursday work better for me. And Tuesday, I'm booked. I'm a tutoring ESL student. That's the only time I work for them. So Wednesday, I have some conflicts. I'm going to let another, if we work for everybody, I guess I have to tell another organization. I have to, because of that, I have another commitment for another organization. I have to tell them I can't do it. So Thursday I'm free. If Wednesday work for everybody, so we go for it.
Well, do other people have comments about a Wednesday versus a Thursday?
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter to me. Either one is fine.
I can do most Thursdays, but the March 19th, which is on a Thursday, I can't do that. So that would be the only conflict that I have for now.
How about
Okay,
just do Wednesday? So because
Okay.
everybody can do Wednesday, let's stick to it.
Wednesday 6 p.m. works for everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Greg and Lena, for you too as well?
We have no choice.
Well,
Yeah, we have no choice.
No, Wednesday
I
works
was-
fine, but I do
I
want to
mean,
make sure ping, because we have a razor thin margin for a quorum here, so we can't afford to lose even one person. So ping Wednesdays, you can make accommodations for Wednesdays. Is that what we're hearing?
So yeah, that's because this is so important. Everybody can make it. I can't just, I have to compromise. I have to talk to another party. Just say I need to focus on this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Wednesdays works for Lena and I, so that's fine.
okay. So let's meet again then Wednesday, the 25th at 6. We should all plan on that being a little bit of a longer meeting. At that point, Greg, correct, we'll begin the reviewing process.
Yeah, so what I might throw out for discussion is, and just for the benefit of the new members, what we do is we break up the binder into different numbers of applications that we address at each meeting. And really, that's just a group discussion. There's no discussion of what an overall score should be. We're not scoring real time. That's what you do on your own, at your own leisure. And then you eventually have to provide your total scores by a certain deadline that we'll need to establish in the not too distant future to the recorder for that person to then summarize and bring back to the whole committee. So having said that, what I might suggest is for the next meeting, we go over the scoring rubric in case people want to like jump into it right away, and then maybe break off a smaller portion of the binder. And then with each subsequent meeting after that, because I think you should get on a weekly, as was suggested, a weekly rhythm, break off a more aggressive set of applications that you're going to tackle per meeting. So like, again, I'm just throwing this out. It's up to you guys, but maybe for the next meeting, you go through 1 through 6, maybe, which takes you through all of Family Health Center. Because of the fact that going over the rubric might take a little bit of time. But most people are familiar with the rubric already, so I don't know, it's up to you. Maybe we can do 10 of them. But if we weren't discussing anything other than the applications, I would suggest that no less than 10 applications be discussed per meeting, probably more than that, just to kind of get through in a decent schedule, a decent amount of time.
Greg, in the past, if we, while reading the applications, have a question about a particular agency, we forwarded them to staff and they would forward to the agency to get a response. Are we still going to do that, you think?
Yeah, so in the past, just for the benefit of the people who actually nobody on this committee now I think about has been on since the time when we used to have hardwired into the RFP a notice that people would have to present before this committee. But that kind of went by the wayside when COVID hit, because we just figured it was just too difficult to try to like schedule, time slots for people to log in and log off and present about their, but that might be a discussion for another time. Obviously it's not going to happen this year either because we didn't warn people, but you might want to discuss that before the end of your cycle this year as to whether or not you want to bring that back maybe in the coming years. But I strongly recommend if you do that be an in-person versus a virtual setting. It might be just one meeting where everyone meets in person. But in lieu of that, like I was trying to get at, we have been entertaining questions that you might have. You can send it to us. You can either bring it up in the meeting or send it to us very shortly thereafter the meeting. And then we can then compile those and send them to the applicants and then try to get responses in a fairly timely manner. So we bring them back to either the next meeting or at least 2 meetings after those questions came up, but hopefully no longer than that. So yeah, we can do that again this year.
Would it be possible next meeting to do a very brief presentation on how last year's recommendations and funds went? Like 5 minutes, just to see where everything ended up.
That would be super helpful.
Yeah, we could do that. So maybe we tackle even less applications, but I'm noticing people are putting these little animated hands up and stuff, and that's fine if you're comfortable with that, but I don't know if I'll be able to keep track of all. You might want to just speak up if there's other questions.
Yeah, Tojan was actually next.
What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, Tojan was actually next.
Oh, okay.
And then
Thank you.
Pings.
I was just wondering, is it possible, maybe it's just the nerd in me, I'm like, can we get a copy of the scoring sheet so that way, at least for me, I want to start reviewing and reading through it, especially since we're going to be going through a lot of applications, just so I have that as a guidance.
Yeah, so we have a pretty set scoring rubric along with a guide. It really leaves no stone uncovered, so to speak. So I think we can definitely, that's what we would go over at the next meeting. And then we can email it to people right after that meeting so that people will have it in their possession.
Okay.
Ping, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Since Toyin and I are new, I have a binder here on my desk. Will be very helpful if somebody can give us quick overview to what are we looking at. So what do we do? And so I'd like to take the advantage, have a binder here, start looking through the application one at a time, but I need to know if you have those rubric, anything like a instruction, can you share with us now? We don't need to wait.
We can certainly share it in advance, but excuse me, it's the type of thing that people might want to revisit it and maybe tweak some things here and there. Usually we haven't over the last few years, but I would hesitate to give something that is a live scoring instrument when it's not really like, everyone hasn't discussed it yet. but I can show you the example from prior year for sure. And then to your point about going through all the binder, our intent, and Lena, maybe you can fill me in as to where we are with this, but our intent was to have these one-page summaries of everything, which I think some people find helpful too. Are those prepared, I guess, Lena?
They're all so the first page before every actual application is a one-page summary that's been written by neighborhood staff. So that's folks on our team here that have gone through the application and drafted that summary page after that initial review. So hopefully the intention is that it makes it a little easier to go through.
Yeah, so those are sort of like cheat sheets, but please do not take our word for it, so to speak. Read through the actual application yourself. But that gives you some of the high level data points, like, you know, what the application is about, how much they're requesting, what percentage of it is a request of CDBG, whether or not they're a new applicant, some of those things. So that's something you can look at quickly to kind of get a sense of the application.
It is useful.
I have another question. So I don't know how things get done in the past. Are those information online? Can we view them online? Do you have like a folder, Google Drive, have everything, all the application, all the summary we can review online? The paper is good. This is kind of, I will look at those paper. I think sometimes virtually, maybe you can keep going back and forth and to review them quickly. Maybe you have that already.
So the scoring instrument is in a form of a PDF, and it's a fillable PDF, so you can do that at your leisure on your own computer. There is some manual aspects to it. Obviously, you'd have to do a save as, presumably, to keep saving different files. So the short answer is some of it is digital, but we don't have like a software application or some sort of fancy sort of interface where you can log in and, you know, do the scoring online. We just don't have that yet. We did experiment with NeighborWorks, or not NeighborWorks, but Neighborly, which is a software system for the ARP applications, and found it to be a little clunky. It's more of a work process flow type software, and it did cost us a lot of money. Surprised the city even, quite honestly, was able to or agreed to pay for that. But I don't know. We do have Workday. It's not really set up to do that, but I don't know. Hopefully, maybe in the next few years, we'll look at some sort of other alternative or online platform. But for now, it is the paper files and using a PDF to score.
So those PDF, you have a digital file online? That's my question. No. Oh, okay. It's
No,
Yeah,
nothing's
no,
online.
actually, none of,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll get the PDF, and then you can just continue to resave it, and then at some point you will submit those in batches
Okay.
to Steve, who will compile all our
Yes.
scores.
The
What
reason
happened
I'm
was that Ping's
asking,
original
yeah,
question was whether these files that we currently have on Binder
yeah,
can
it
be
was,
done digitally, but we don't have those digitally. It's all
okay.
paper.
Well,
Yeah,
if the question is just whether you want a PDF file shared with you for some of the applications, we could provide that by email, but
So there will be, the reason I ask because I'm going to travel to visit my grandkids. I just thought, it will be handy. I can
Mhm.
review them online. I don't think I can bring this big binder with me.
Yeah.
So,
if anyone has like individual circumstances or questions like that about how to organize, please you're welcome to email me directly at any time. I can provide those materials to you.
okay, that will be awesome.
And yeah, we would love to help facilitate that and make it easier for you. But that being said, obviously, and I just have to put this out there, it's not aimed at you or anyone in particular, but whatever we share by email stays within the context of the committee too. Especially since it involves people's applications and stuff like that. And, the fact that I even have to say that's ridiculous, but I had one year we had the spreadsheet of the scores of the committee sent out or posted on social media by one of the committee members. So obviously everything that we evaluate and consider is just within the context of this committee, even though obviously it's an open meeting and we're beholden to the open meeting laws. Any sort of digital files we send your way would need to stay with the committee members, please. Any
One
other
question,
questions?
Greg?
Yeah.
One last question. At least I have. Last year we have provided a little bit of feedback around the scoring sheets and some revisions to it to match the actual applications for whether they were the human service organizations or whether they were the second batch that we reviewed. They didn't really align together. Were those changes made?
They probably weren't, but we can certainly revisit that. And that's part of the reason we go over the rubric with the whole committee before we actually start using them. So Lena, you and I can later kind of go over some of that and then again, like I said, when we meet, if there's something that was an oversight or something that hadn't been changed, we can explore changing it if the committee agrees with that. So
Yeah, I had the same feedback. If we could look at either what we recommended before when we were in the middle of doing it, that was super helpful. But yeah, it would be great to just make sure that any of the changes that we recommended, we could get that looked up before we start using it. That would be great.
Ping, is that still your hand raised? Do you have another question?
yeah.
Sorry, I
You are-
should lower
there we
my
go.
hand. Good.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
And my apologies
I'm
for
so-
calling you pings, by the way. Because at my end, I only see pings.
So I just want to confirm meetings. So our next meeting will be February 25th at 6 p.m. And then
Yes.
I want to confirm that we can get on a relatively. We'll begin meeting weekly at that point, which would then be on Wednesdays, which is March 4th, 11th, and 18th. That works for everyone as of right now.
Yes.
I would say at this point, we don't schedule any more meetings, but hopefully by the 4th or the 11th, we'll have a pretty good sense of how we're progressing through the applications, and then we can schedule another 3 or so meetings, depending. The final word I have to share is my encouragement is that as we're reviewing the applications and we have discussions as a committee, we're conscious of balancing having healthy, hearty discussions while also being succinct in our communication. Just with the length of applications, we want to make sure that we are doing due diligence to the applications towards the back of the binder as we are to the front of the binder. And so we want to make sure that we set ourselves up at a pace that we don't burn each other out.
And I think it worked good last year too, that if somebody started with an overview of concerns and everyone had the same concerns, we didn't repeat them. We just kind of, only mentioned things that might be different than the previous person that brought up whatever. I felt like that was helpful.
Agreed.
Would you guys be able to send us the outcomes of last year prior to the meeting so we don't have to spend that much time on it? Or
What do you mean by the outcomes?
I know Nicole was talking
Overview.
about
Yeah.
like an overview of you know, what ended up happening with the funds and all of that.
Yeah, we could
Because-
prepare that and have it for the
I
next
can
meeting.
do that, yes.
So is that really, so that's not only who was funded, but I guess the status of those projects in terms of like implementation and stuff?
Yeah, because I think, I mean, it would be great to see it, but I think I know that you had mentioned, I think even from the year before that, you know, some organizations were slow to spend and considering some of those things. So that kind of came up, I think, as we, you know, went through some of them, but I think any information we can have to frame what's going on with an organization, especially if they've, you know, applied again this year, would be super helpful.
Mhm.
Sure, we could do that. We could do like a fairly succinct bulleted list of, you know, what they were awarded, what their balance is, percent spent, that kind of stuff, and the nature of the program.
I believe public service will expend their funds by July 1st, correct? And if they don't, that would be unexpended funds available?
For some reason you broke up there. What was your question again?
That in public services, they had, their deadline was July 1st to spend their allocation.
Yeah. So for services under CDBG regulations, they have a year. So it's from July 1 of the CDBG year to June 30th of the end of the year of the following year, following calendar year. And if it's not spent, then yes, it ends up in a just unexpended bucket. And for facilities or even interdepartmental, those funds can carry over.
Mhm.
And for facilities, it's not like they can carry over, you know, like exponentially, because we're always under pressure from HUD because of what's called timeliness expenditure. So we can't carry more than 1.5 times our grant balance in unexpended funds. So basically, we do try to push timeliness and make sure that the funds are expended, but the only one that's kind of beholden to 1 year is services. Facilities can you know, go beyond a year, but again, we don't like them going on 3 years or something like that, maybe 2 years or something at the max.
Are we ready for an adjournment? Sounds like we're done.
Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
I make that
Oh.
motion.
And I will second it.
Tonya, it sounds like you have questions.
Lina,
No,
can
I
you-
don't.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead. Lina, can you stay after meeting just a few minutes?
Well, after we could do that, but we'd have to stop the recording, so obviously it wouldn't be part of the
Yeah.
open, yeah. Oh, if Lena has time, I don't want to put you on the spot, Lena.
Ismail,
we-
where are you in Puerto Rico? I'm just curious.
Okay,
Adjuntas
wait,
in the
okay,
middle of
is
the
the meeting
island.
adjourned?
Yeah, meeting adjourned. Yeah, we don't need to
Oh,
vote.
okay,
Okay.
sorry, meeting adjourned.
So we don't need to
Okay.
vote for the meeting to adjourn, right? We had a motion and a second.
You have to vote.
Yeah. And everyone
have
can
to
vote.
decide.
Alrighty.